Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this recap video we're going to cover a number of the positions we've been watching throughout the day and also a couple positions we're looking at into the Asian session. So first of all, we do have some interesting hot zones tomorrow pertaining to mainly those of you that watch the New Zealand dollar. We have their official cash rate and the Reserve Bank of New Zealand statement. We will talk about that plenty in the beginners Q&A session at, I believe it's 1:30 Eastern. So all members, every week we have a beginners Q&A session that runs about 30 to 60 minutes, and we cover all the basics of the site, different tools that I use, different basics on the Forex and futures markets, and we just cover your questions in a session where, you know, we're not looking at live trades in the live market. We can kind of downshift and coast a bit and take those questions in a live Q&A environment. Of course, it's recorded and available to members. So we will be covering that tomorrow because for many of you, this might be your first Reserve Bank of New Zealand dollar hot zone. And there are futures we can trade with this, and I can show you some of the setups that we'll be watching. Of course, we also have crude oil. So let's start off our recap video with what is going on in crude. And I'm going to talk a bit about the OIH while we're at it. So take a look at crude here. Of all the narratives that are happening revolving around crude oil from the commodity standpoint, the fact that we did not stop at this 44.32 low just really emphasizes the downtrend that we have been in very convincingly since the beginning part of June, even the latter part of May. Now, a lot of people ask, well, Rog, what are you doing with crude? And I'll tell you, when you're a commodities trader, a lot of the ETFs lend themselves even better than some of the actual commodities. And the easier trend to trade has been OIH. And along with OIH, some of the heavier weighted stocks like Schlumberger, like Halliburton. So you might be saying, Raghee, wait a minute. I'm a futures trader. You're telling me to trade OIH? It's a narrative related to the CL or the USO, however you want to trade crude. And yes, right now, the OIH continues to be a much better place to play that short in crude. Now, am I expecting a bounce? Well, I'd sure love to see a bounce in crude oil. You can also play the QM futures. This is the half size mini. So if you don't want to plunk down the kind of capital to trade 2 or 4 lots of CL, I would recommend in lieu of that trading 2 to 4 lots of the QM. Multiple lots is a key part of proper trade management because traders will do the dumbest things. They will go full on double mule, twice as stubborn, half as smart if they've got a winner and only 1 lot, because they will forego profit targets. They're going to try to squeeze more out of it. More mistakes, I think, happen. A lot of times people always accuse mistakes to too large a position size. There are plenty of mistakes that happen trading single or small position size as well. But instead of going, multiple CL lots, think about going with the mini sometimes. And QM is a valid way to go. And if you don't like the sizing in either of those, go with the USO. Much more flexible sizing. And if that still is too much risk, go with the options on CL or the options on USO. I think crude oil is going to continue to head down lower, and the reason I'm waiting for a bounce is I want to sell into it. Right now that zone is conservatively at 46.90. We do have tomorrow's inventories report. We'll calculate this live in the chat tomorrow and talk about where we might be able to take advantage of the downtrend on perhaps the 180 or 240 minute time frame. The one thing we are seeing happening right now after the API number came out is kind of a surge to the upside after we've created a wave reversal long through the 43.55 level. And 43.55, actually even 43.40, those are levels that we've been watching pretty closely as we take out not only the Darvis highs, but also the wave, the 34 EMA on the high. A couple other interesting plays going into the Asian session. I'm looking at the Euro US possibly hooking up Here you can see it's already happened. I mentioned that there would be a tripwire of stops through the 1130, 1135 area, so I'm watching for that. Within the context of even an intraday uptrend, would I be willing to buy the Darvas box low? I sure would. Would I be willing to play momentum trades through the Darvas box high? Only because it's 1135, and I think that could be a level through which we could see a move pretty handily up to about 1150, 1155. And for a 5-minute chart, that's not too shabby. What else are we watching right now into the Asian session, intraday? You know, Nikkei, NAS, we saw some risk, a little bit of risk off, a little bit of profit taking, I guess you could say, in some ways going into the latter part of the day. But hey, let's just keep in mind, this is still a 19,000, sorry, right here, it's actually a 19,805, 19,805 on the daily. We punched up to a higher high, and this is where I want to, this is where I want to caution a lot of traders who see a high and they want to fade it. Be cautious. If you're going to take advantage of a rollover, keep an eye on the 60-minute. Let's take out the Darvas low as well as the 34 EMA with a negative 100 or greater CCI. We could see a short-term follow-through to perhaps the 110 level. So be cautious with this one, but I know a lot of people are wondering, what if we roll over in the near term into the Asian session? This would be an interesting place to look for acceleration to the downside. And rather than recap a lot of some of the positions that we've already got going on, I just wanted to mention a few things that we've got on our radar. Okay, this gives you a good idea of the kind of scanning we do both end of day and intraday, and we do have some intraday plays we've been watching because some of these markets have gotten a little choppy, they've gotten a little toppy, and we're basically managing either longer term end of day plays, or we're going to retreat to the short term time frame and be as nimble as possible. So there's a pretty good cross section of what we've had our eye on. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next update.